My name's Graham. I'm just a stupid Yorkshireman living down under in Australia. And I have to ask, who killed the BBC? Someone must have killed the BBC. Because the BBC, as I remember it, I left England in 1965. The BBC was the most trusted TV or media service in the world. Now the BBC is the least trusted media service in the world. We know they lie. We know they lie because we can prove by argument that they lie. And now it's all Russia's fault because Macron's a fool. Macron, that president of France, wants to starve the people of fuel, pretending he's going to save the climate. When they've got no choice but to use a fuel that's there. There's no choice but use petrol. He's not replacing air of electric car. Instead, none of that's happening. According to the BBC and the media in England, the Murdoch or whoever it owns that media, it's the Russians' fault that the people in France are protesting. Now, what they're saying is that the people in France are really dumb, and they're saying that the people in England are so stupid they can't work things out for themselves. What we're saying is that the BBC and its reporters, which sound like attacking people personally instead of getting onto the nitty-gritty and objectively analysing a subject in a conversation, intelligent conversation with anyone, it's all personal and offensive now. Like they can no longer capable of asking rational questions. The BBC is no longer a broadcasting corporation that works for the people. It works against the people. Because this attack on Russia, when people are freezing to death in England because they can't afford to keep warm, where's the cover-up? Who do you fear most? Freezing to death in England because you can't afford to keep warm, or Putin? If Putin said to the English people, look, we'll supply you gas so that all the old people can keep warm, would he be seen then as an enemy or a friend of Britain? I mean, what is a friend or enemy of someone? One who causes someone to freeze to death because they're putting the price of fuel up, and they've got nuclear power in. There's no need to put the price of fuel up that much to freeze people to death. But there's a reason they're freezing people to death. The same as they're cooking people to death in Australia. It gets very hot in Australia, and people cannot afford air conditioning because the cost of electricity has risen so much because they're saving the climate. The greatest lie ever. That old people, it's a eugenics problem. They're killing off the old people because the old people in Australia, they sweat all the salts out of them and become extremely weak and then lethargic and then get sick and may not recover. In England, of course, you got the opposite. You got freezing cold, so people get a flu or cold. The old people get chilled into their bones, and they can't recover. And the idea is to kill off all the old people, so there's room in accommodation in their houses for all the immigrants they're bringing in. But they don't have to pay. They can't afford to pay all the pensions and support all the immigration that's coming in at the same time. And no one wants to talk about it. It's just a simple economics. They can't afford to keep the old people warm and comfortable because you're bringing millions of other people who've never paid tax in England or worked in England that you have to support. You can't have it both ways. In other words, what is going on is a destruction of a British way of life which has been improving over the time. If there were better money economic managers and fiscal managers, they would be surely it's a failure of government that causes old people to suffer. You can't say we're improving and modernising our civilization. Well, old people are made to suffer because of, well, basically it's done on purpose. There's no need to. People should have an amount of fuel or energy afforded to them equal to all others. They're going to have equality. Let's talk about equality. The BBC, the biggest pusher of equality in the world, and the left in Australia, big pushers of equality. Why not equal quality in heating for old people on a sliding scale according to their income? This is fair and equitable. These people have worked and endured, or worked in real jobs. The people in BBC have never had a job. They think they're the elite. They're starting to become the scum. They can't say, oh, we all got to be equal. I agree. But if and say it's Marxism, no, it's not. It's not Marxism, it's more like Nazism. The Marxism is far removed from Marxism, where you spread the wealth around. This is taking the wealth off the old people and giving it to other people who are just coming into the country. So why can't you have a sliding scale system for all static or basic capital charges, like static, I call it static capital, like heating and eating and cooling in Australia, heating in England, is a basic capital, human capital if you like. So if they're into equality, then surely the pensioners should be entitled to an equal amount of heating in winter as the rich in the BBC. There should be, that's the equality that we have to talk about, that the left are avoiding that discussion. That it's not about money, it's not about paying more money into people's accounts or anything like that. It's just about negotiating the contracts with the energy providers, the electricity providers, so they can take a little bit less profit. It won't hurt them, they won't starve to death, and would allow better comfort for all people, rather than this horrible, inhuman and evil eugenics program which they're involved with. And that's what it is. When you're causing old people to harm by refusing to keep them warm enough in winter, or freezing or cool in summer in Australia, you are no longer a responsible or Christian democracy. It's turned a corner, gone backwards into the 18th century, become a corporate system masquerading as a democracy. It's greedy corporate system, an 18th century system, a pre-Adam Smith philosophy if you like, where who gives us stuff, you're on your own, pal. We're rich and we need all the money we can get for our real estate investments in the Canary Island, wherever it is, Barbados or wherever it is in London. We need all our money for that. We can't afford can't afford to have pensioners keeping warm in winter. But this is where the people of Britain need to wake up and ask the question, what does this equality mean, when the people in the BBC sponging off the public, lardy-dardying around like they're lords of the manor, instead of serving the people, they're lying when it comes to equality. Because if they have more heating in winter than the poor people and the pensioners, that's not equal, is it? It's not equality, is it? That's a great growing disparity between the left who are crying about equality and the actual facts, when you look at them, objectify the facts impartially and see what's going on, like the BBC used to. The BBC used to do this, now it does the very opposite. So the BBC, as far as I'm concerned, is dead. Dead. Finished. No longer the British Broadcasting Corporation. It's just a propaganda arm of a eugenics program organised to reduce the amount of pensioners by causing them to freeze to death. And it's terrible. It's a tragedy. It's a very sad day when own governments and corporations turn on people like this. No good blaming Putin. No good blaming Putin when you've got your people freezing to death like it's worse than what Stalin would have it.